Noah had run off into the trees, determined to collect as many pine cones as his small hands could carry. That left Emma and Aaron standing together by the quiet campsite, the stillness between them suddenly feeling softer, fuller, warmer than it had earlier. "Are you thinking about heading out soon?" Aaron asked gently. He chose his words like they were fragile. Emma gazed toward the river, watching the evening light ripple against the surface. "I'm not sure," she admitted, "but I know I'm not ready to go back." "Not yet." Aaron nodded as if he understood her completely. "You don't have to decide today," he said. "Take the time you need." His simple understanding tightened something in her chest, not painfully, but tenderly. She wasn't falling quickly. She was healing slowly, and somehow he had become part of that healing without ever trying to. As the sun sank, the sky turned shades of peach and rose. Emma stood near the water's edge, letting the colors wash over her. Aaron stepped beside her, close enough to feel his presence, not close enough to cross a line. He made the evening feel safe, almost protective. "I didn't think I'd feel hope again this soon," Emma whispered. Aaron turned to her with a soft, steady smile. "Hope usually finds you when you're convinced it won't." Emma met his eyes. For a quiet moment, everything around them felt warm and possible. They didn't touch. They didn't try to. But the space between them shifted, gentle, promising, threaded with quiet affection. When night finally wrapped itself around the campsite, Emma realized something that made her heart flutter. Her healing had brought her here, but something new was forming, something she wasn't afraid of anymore. The river whispered beside them, carrying their unspoken beginning into the dark. Peaceful night. Far from that campsite, in the small pine-scented town of Willowrest, Emily Cooper lived a calm life that rarely surprised her. She worked at the community center, a place she knew so well it sometimes felt like an extension of herself. Her days were steady and predictable, the kind of routine a person grows comfortable with without realizing how quiet it makes their world. But quiet can feel like emptiness when loneliness goes unnoticed. One cool autumn afternoon, Emily was sorting dusty files when sunlight warmed the office like a soft lamp. Everything was peaceful until a knock broke the stillness. She startled. Hardly anyone visited during that hour. When she opened the door, Michael Reed stood on the threshold, the man everyone whispered about since he'd moved back from Seattle. People said he kept to himself, carried old burdens, spoke only when necessary. Emily never imagined he'd walk into her office looking uncertain, almost hesitant. "Hey," he said gently. "Sorry to bother you. Do you have a minute?" Emily nodded, both curious and unexpectedly warmed by his presence. He stepped inside, moving carefully, as though uncertain he should be there at all. A thick, disorganized folder sat in his hands. "I'm working on something for the town," he explained quietly. "But organization isn't exactly my strong point." Emily motioned for him to sit. "That's what I'm here for." "Let me see." The folder was a mess, not careless, but the kind of disarray that comes from pushing through work when your heart is too heavy. As she sorted the papers, Michael sat silently, tapping his fingers against his knee, watching her with a calm attentiveness she wasn't used to. She felt his gaze now and then, soft and unintrusive, and it made her aware of every small movement she made. She hadn't been noticed like that in years. "This is all fixable," she said with a reassuring smile. "Just need some structure." He let out a slow exhale. "I knew you'd be able to help. People say you're the reason this place runs as well as it does." She laughed lightly, cheeks warming. "I don't know about that." "I do," he said softly. Their eyes met for just a second, but it was enough to leave a quiet ache in her chest. She didn't know this man, not really, but something about him felt wounded and sincere in a way that tugged at her heart. When she finished organizing everything, Michael held the folder like it was something far more meaningful than a stack of papers. Thank you, he murmured. You made this easier than I expected. As he reached the doorway, he hesitated. I might need more help if you're willing. She nodded slowly. I'm willing. He smiled, a real one this time, and left out. Emily stayed motionless long after the door closed. Something had shifted. Something she couldn't name yet, but felt down to her bones. Helping him had been simple, but it had awakened a warmth she didn't realize she'd been missing, and she had no idea that a single knock on her door was about to change her entire world. The next day, Michael came back carrying 2 coffees. No explanation, no big gesture, just a quiet offering that made her chest bloom with emotion she tried to hide. They fell into an easy rhythm. The project he was leading, something his late father once managed, turned out to be larger and more complicated than she expected. And every time he spoke about his father, Emily could hear the grief beneath his steady tone. She began noticing him in ways she didn't plan to. The way he rubbed his forehead when tired. The way he hid frustration with a quiet laugh. The way he listened like every word she said mattered. Michael wasn't a man of empty chatter. He let moments breathe. And somehow that made Emily feel safe around him. Their afternoons together filled the office with a kind of warmth it hadn't known before. An unspoken connection forming in the gentle spaces between them. One late day, as the sun cast an orange glow across the room, Michael spoke softly about his father, about the weight of stepping into a role he never felt prepared for. You don't have to do all of this alone, Emily whispered. Her words stunned him, not because he didn't believe her, but because nobody had said those words to him in a very long time. His shoulders eased just a bit. Thank you, he murmured. You have no idea how much that means. Something changed in the air. They were sitting close enough that she could feel his warmth, hear the faint exhale of his breath. She suddenly became aware of how deeply he affected her, but neither of them said anything more. As days passed, they grew closer in the quiet ways that mattered the most. She looked forward to every afternoon. He seemed calmer whenever she entered the room. They shared small smiles, small stories, small moments that felt anything but small. And then the storm came. Dark clouds rolled in quickly, swallowing the sky above Willowrist. Thunder cracked. Rain hammered the windows. The office lights dimmed and flickered. Michael stood near the window. Looks like we're stuck here for a bit, he said with a faint laugh. Emily joined him, the storm outside wrapping the quiet room in a cocoon of sound. The closeness between them grew heavier, deeper. I didn't think I'd stay here long, he said suddenly. I felt like I didn't belong anymore, like I was walking through my father's shadow. That must be hard, she whispered. It was, he said. But you made things feel possible again. Her heart stumbled. She lowered her gaze, overwhelmed by the honesty in his voice. It's more than work, he continued softly. You make me feel steady, like I'm not alone. Lightning lit the room. Thunder shook the walls. The tension snapped, not painfully, but unexpectedly, leaving both of them unsure what to do with all the emotion left hanging in the air. They returned to their tasks, though neither could focus. When the storm softened, they finally left the building. Michael walked beside her, quiet, thoughtful, close enough to feel, but not touch. At her car. He paused. Emily, thank you for everything. The warmth in his voice stayed with her the whole drive home. This wasn't just about helping him anymore. This was becoming real, something her heart was no longer willing to ignore. The next morning, sunlight glistened on rain-washed streets. Emily arrived early, pretending she wasn't waiting for him even though she was. When he walked in, 2 coffees in his hands, her breath caught. The way he smiled made it impossible to pretend anymore. I thought you might need this, he said quietly. When their fingers brushed, the touch sent a wave of warmth through her she couldn't hide. After a moment, Michael reached into his jacket and pulled out a small sealed envelope. "I wrote something for you," he said, offering it gently. "I wanted you to have it." Emily took it with trembling hands, feeling the weight of everything unsaid resting inside that thin piece of paper. When she opened it, the words inside were simple yet deeply honest gratitude, vulnerability, and a confession of how much her presence had changed him. And as she read his handwriting, line by line, Emily felt her entire world shift, quietly, beautifully, undeniably into something new.